Proverbs 1 through 3. The Proverbs, of course, are associated with Solomon. The poetical books that we've studied in the Old Testament, that are in our Old Testament, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. Those 5 books, we are now working with Proverbs. We saw that Job was associated with the patriarchal period, so that's why we studied it early. The Psalms were associated with David. And now the Proverbs and Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon, those last 3 are all associated with Solomon. So we'll take some time now and work our way through the Proverbs. We won't be dealing with them each individual verse, of course, because they are very scattered in how they approach the concept of wisdom. There are very few historical allusions within the book. There's very few mentions of sacrifice and ritual, because by this point I'd recommend an Israelite thinking and in the experience of the story of Israel, ceremony had taken a back seat to the bigger question again of which Elohim do you worship. And again, when we get to the end of Solomon's life, we'll start to see that as an issue. But for now, when we start this book of Proverbs, well, we have a very clear statement. In fact, let's mention it in 1:7. The fear of Yahweh. The fear of Yahweh, and here's a good time to mention his name, not just the general term for God. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. And of course, the goal of this book is to be a wise person. Wisdom in the ancient world was again not trivial pursuit kind of questions. It was how to live life successfully. In fact, you could be a relatively ignorant person when it came to trivia and be a very wise person. So that's where we're trying to go here in the book, how to navigate through life. By the way, in 1:7, 129, and 2:5, we have this repetition of the phrase, the fear of Yahweh. It's interesting that the word fear used here, yara, is not the standard word for respect of a deity. This is the actual word, and it's used, for example, in Psalm 55, verse 5, associated with actual trembling. So I'd recommend that what he's trying to do, there's a bit of a shock value to the use of this word for fear here. There seems to be some kind of, I would recommend, statement of respect to the point of actually trembling in the presence of your God named Yahweh. That is the beginning, that is the path, that's the beginning of this trek, shall we say, up this mountain of wisdom. Psalm or 220, let's mention 220. It does mention the idea of a path. It's called the path of righteousness. Again, don't think behavioral there. Think propriety, or the proper path that one follows. And that's, again, how we should always look at this. It's easy to, because we've talked so much about loyalty, think that loyalty can be won in a day. But if we've learned anything as humans, whether it's going on a diet or almost any decision that we make, it's a daily, sometimes hourly affair. And so the path of righteousness that's described in the book of Proverbs is not just a decision one makes, it's a path one follows. The famous text of 3, 5, and 6, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, let me read it to you because it really does seem to set out, again, a standard way of thinking about this entire book. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart, there's that word again for decision making, and lean not to your own understanding. There was a question we brought up earlier about how much of human decision making is your own versus that of the gods. We'll talk about that latter option coming up later. I would say, to answer that specific question, whenever humans are talking to humans in the Bible, they're going, and that it would include here in our book of Proverbs, it would include some of the prophets, when the prophets will be challenging people to make right decisions, that when humans talk to humans, there's a presumption that humans are the ones making the decisions. And so that's how it reads here. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, know Yahweh. The word for yada, or to know, is the standard word there for simply understanding with intimacy who someone is. So read it that way. In all your ways, know Yahweh, And he will make your way, there's that path idea, he will make it, well, the word is smooth or pleasing, or another word is straight. Very commonly translated pleasing, straight, or proper. Well, all to say that as hard as the path going up this mountain to wisdom is, and it's never assumed to be simple, the promise of chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, that to know Yahweh is to make that path as smooth as possible. Let me say in conclusion that as you are about to go up this path with the writer of the book of Proverbs, others have been going up this path since the beginning of mankind. It's the same path. Sometimes it's easy to think that only Israel or only Christians today know the truth or know even what wisdom is. You're probably going to be going up this path with people who are not believers. In other words, they use the same wisdom often that we have. And so the point is that when we hear the Proverbs, realize that we are dealing in a vast library called ancient wisdom that was worldwide at the time. This is an Egyptian proverb. If thou findest a large debt against a poor man, make it into 3 parts, forgive 2, and let 1 stand. Thou wilt lie down and sleep soundly. A Mesopotamian proverb. Requite with kindness your evildoer. Maintain justice to your enemy. Smile on your adversary. If your ill-wisher is hurting, nurture him. And we could go on. That, and this is well known, that the kind of wisdom that we are going to be seeing in the Proverbs have been often found in other literature of the world. In fact, think of Solomon himself, the writer of many of our Proverbs here. He was a cosmopolitan man, had many contacts with the outside world, and that's probably where he got a lot of his wisdom. In fact, in Egypt we hear this proverb, do not associate to thyself the heated man, nor visit him for conversation. That's an ancient Egyptian proverb that predates Solomon. And then in Proverbs 22:24 we read, do not associate with a man given to anger, or go with a hot-tempered man. Well, it almost sounds like a repeat of what the Egyptian had said. So be prepared for this, that as you are going up this mountain toward wisdom, you will be fellow traveling. You will find as a fellow traveler those who do not fear Yahweh. Don't be surprised at that, because it's not as though wisdom is only found with God. It's that as humans in general have for centuries, millennia, tried to live a wise life, in the end, no matter who it is that climbs this mountain, when they get to the top and they crawl over the top, their God, Yahweh, has been the whole time. There is one way to live life wisely. Of course, many parts to that. But it's not as though those who do not know Yahweh can't figure that out. It's just that when we give our mind to Yahweh and do it on a consistent basis, this is again the basis of the book, that when we give our heart to Yahweh, He will make this path as smooth as possible.